Hey everybody, it's morning and I am about to head to my vegetable garden to finally get it cleaned out. You can see I've got my tools all ready. This is actually so I can collect some of the tomatoes that were red when we got the freeze, and I'm going to save some more seeds. So I'm going to collect those in that, and of course my gloves, my Felcos to trim up any large branches that I need to in order to get them, normally I would say either composted or into this wagon here so I can dispose of them. And I also have this bucket that I can use to capture some of the debris. Now, the reason why I say normally I would compost things, my compost bin is crammed full, and I've told you before, in New Mexico, because of our arid climate, things don't compost real well because we don't have enough moisture in the air or get enough rain for it to break down. It has to have moisture to break down. I do try to put water in my compost bin. It's not as efficient as wetter weather would be, so it really takes a really long time, and so my compost bin is crammed full. So unfortunately, I won't be composting a lot today. I will still compost some, not in the bin, but actually on the ground, but I won't be doing the really large stuff that has not in the past broken down. I will be doing smaller, thinner branches and limbs of tomato plants and such, and greens. So here we'll go. We'll get started. While I'm at the entrance of my garden, I want to show you something. So I might be tempted when I see this branch like this one on my rose bush. Get shadow here so you can see it a little bit better. I might be tempted to trim that, but I know some people will still do that. I don't want to risk actually having my rose freeze and die. So what I will do is I will tuck that branch into the arbor instead of cutting it off. So it's as simple as that. I don't risk cutting them off this time of year. I actually stop with any trimming of my rose bush before we have our last freeze. Our first freeze, excuse me, because I really don't want to risk that water will get into the stem and freeze it and damage the rose. So you can see when we got our first freeze and all that snow, there were still lots of spoon tomatoes on the plant. You can see all the red. I did have a lot of good eating of spoon tomatoes this year, so I don't feel bad that I missed out on these. And I have saved some seeds. I will probably save more of those little tomatoes. And you can see there are still tomatoes on these vines. I wouldn't eat any of these because after a freeze, the flavor just completely changes and it's not good. But I am going to be cleaning all this up, and I will show you what it looks like at the end and what I'm keeping in the garden because it's still growing and what I'm pulling up. So the first thing I'm going to do is start collecting more of the little tomatoes for seeds and putting them in my little container here. And I'll show you later what I do with them to get the seeds out of them and store them easily. I don't need too many, and I do still have some of these seeds from the original packet, but I just like to save more just in case those seeds get old and I have some newer seeds. I don't know if you saw that go by my hand there, but our temperatures have come back up and we still have bees flying around. So that was a bee that just passed me by. Okay, here's something else. You see that these are some of my cherry tomatoes off of this plant. And yeah, they're on the ground, they're starting to fade, but there's seeds inside of those. Save those too. You can get seeds out of those. You're not going to get seeds as good or as easily out of any green tomatoes. It's the red ones you want. So if they're on the ground, that's okay. Like this one, I'm going to save that one and get the seeds out of it too. And there are some still on this plant that I'm going to pick too. So right here. They're not completely red, but they're red enough to get some good seeds out of. And I have already saved some of those too, so I'm not worried about getting a whole bunch of those. Okay, so while I'm at it, just to make this easier, I'm gonna go ahead and pick some of the Roma tomatoes that are red. And I have already done this too before we had the freeze. And I'm not picking them to eat them. I'm again picking them to get some of the seeds out of them. And there's one down here. Looks like it's been eaten on. I'm just gonna toss that over the wall and let the rodents or wildlife eat it. And oh, by the way, I will do the same with all of these tomatoes that you see, all the green ones. Won't be saving them. As I said, the flavor is not good after a freeze. It changes. So I'm not saving any of those to eat. I will probably let the wildlife have those. show you how big this borage plant got. How big the trunk is. That it's like a tree, a small tree. So if you're noticing, I am pulling these up, but I am shaking them because they reseed themselves. And I may or may not have to resow some seeds next year. So I just let it grow. I let the seeds fall off and let them grow next year. You can see the bees love borage so much, they're still around. Okay, so here is what I have collected to capture some seeds and save some seeds for next year. I even found a green chili in there. And so I'm done with the tomato side. I'll show you. I'm done pulling everything out. And there's what I ended up with. That's how much debris all of those tomatoes. It was something like, I originally planted, I think 13 tomato plants and 20 something peppers. So that was tomatoes and peppers. Now, like I said, some of this, I will cut off some of the smaller branches, more like this size, that I know can actually compost into the soil over winter as we get some precipitation, whether it's snow or even some rain during the winter. But what I found is over the years, if it is, I mean, especially that size is not going to compost here, but even like this size right here won't compost. It's too thick. So I will only pick some of the smaller branches and I will spread those here. And I will kind of rake up things a little bit so it's flat, because I don't want it to end up being all bumpy like this and not flat for the winter. And then I will put this stuff down, and I tend to put a little bit of soil on top of it just to help it compost better. Then what I do in the spring is pretty much every year I go buy some composted manure, and then I put on top of that all of this that has hopefully composted, and I let it work its way in. I say spring, it's more like late winter that I start doing that, so that my soil can get even better enriched. I've got the fresh compost and I'm preparing for planting. So there's what it looks like so far. I still do have this side to do, but I have an appointment I have to go get cleaned up for, so I will hopefully be able to do the rest of this afternoon. So I want to just quickly show you how I collect my seeds. It's a simple process. I just use paper towels, and I have the paper towels that are separated into 4 sections. And I take a marker, write what the seed is on it. I lay out my tomatoes and peppers here. And then all I'm going to do is, spoon tomatoes are pretty easy. Press it, and you can see all the seeds that come out of that right there. And I usually try to spread it out a little bit, and then I just let that dry on the paper towel, and I cut out that area or rip out that area where the seeds are, put it in a seed packet, and I have seeds for next year. Same thing for the cherry. You can see all the seeds that come out. Spread them on the paper towel. Let that dry. Roma tomatoes, I will do the same thing. And then the green chili, I will open this one up and spread the seeds out on this. And that's all I do. It's an easy, simple process, but it's a way to save seeds and have enough for next year. Here's what they look like after I have squeezed all the seeds or removed the seeds from the tomatoes and the peppers, and I ended up also doing a lemon spice jalapeno. And like I said, I will just let those dry. You can see the tomatoes pretty wet. Let those dry, and then I will put them in a seed packet. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.